Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to all of you joining us today for this quite special webinar on auditing operating expenses using your Caseware technology and Audit International template. It's a real pleasure to see you all here. I can see some names from last week and some from the day one sessions. So we're really looking forward to share our knowledge and insights with you all. Auditing operating expenses is critical and a critical aspect of ensuring financial integrity and transparency in any organization. With the complexities of modern business operations, it is more important than ever to have effective tools and methodologies in place to carry out this task efficiently and accurately. We encourage you all to participate actively in the session. Feel free to ask your questions, to share your thoughts, to engage with us. Today, I want to, before I begin, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Renee Schroeder, who's currently in the room with us today. She is an independent consultant for audit and quality management, bringing more than 19 years of experiences in this webinar. So please feel free to ask your questions. Once again, we are committed to your professional development and excellence. So without any further ado, let's embark on this learning journey together. We hope that you find this webinar informative, insightful, and also valuable for your professional growth. A quick overview of what will happen today. So we're going to go through the objectives of auditing operating expenses. Why would you be in that course? This course is really made to enable you as a trainee to get an understanding of what we are doing in auditing operating expenses and also why are we doing some steps. A quick reminder to all of you, not all assertions will necessarily be tested into this webinar or at your firm, but what we expect from you is to get a basic understanding of the approach and also to be able to tie in the assertions being tested. Who is our client? We are going to continue on wrap-up manufacturing, the same one we've been working on since day one. And to everybody, if you haven't yet downloaded your practice set or your file, your Caseware working paper file, your engagement file wrap-up, please do so. I've just added in the chat box, apologies for that, in the chat box, the link to download your delegate material. All right, so you all know we're going to proceed with auditing operating expenses section. So please, I'm just gonna give you 3 minutes. Click on the link that I've shared with you in the chat box to download your engagement file. And also there are several supporting documents that we have shared with you. You really need to have this with you for this particular session. So 3 minutes, 2 minutes now, it's already 8 minutes past the hour, 2 minutes from now to download your engagement file. If you're joining us now, welcome to Auditing Operating Expenses webinar. Please download your practice set engagement file. I've shared with you the link in the chat box. And do raise your hand if you're done with the download. Zaiko, I see your hands raised. Is it that you've already downloaded everything? It's not raised anymore. Oh, thank you, Henry. Welcome. Thank you, True Blood. Thank you, Anastasia. One more minute for everybody to download your engagement file and the course content. Please use the raise hand option just to guide me whether you were successful. If you're not successful, use the chat or the question box to ask for any assistance. If you can't find it, please do interact with us. We're happy to hear from you. All right, we're done. So I expect all of you to download the attached material, or alternatively, if you've received it by email, that will be 100%. A quick reminder to everybody, all of you, all the attendees are currently muted. Feel free to use the chat function or the question function to ask any questions. We look forward for your participation. If you lose signal, please exit and enter the webinar again, or rather use the browser. Please note that we currently have an undersea cable damaged and it is impacting the whole African continent. That may cause disruption in your connectivity. However, rest assured, you will be shared with the record of this webinar. Okay, let's go for a poll. We want to learn more. You know the drill from now. We want to make sure that you have everything downloaded. So please answer that poll. Do you have today's course material downloaded? I'm expecting 100% yes. All right, so I can see we've got 15% of us who voted. Most of us have the materials downloaded. The 40% who don't have, please do so. It's in the chat box. "30 more seconds for the poll. Do let us know if you need any assistance, if you can't find where to download, just pop us a little chat. Remember, this session is made for you. All right, we've got more than 60% who have downloaded. The rest, please make sure that you use the chat box to do that. I'm going to now close this poll. Thank you all for this participation. We also want to learn more about how confident do you feel about applying the audit techniques that we've been discussing throughout the webinars to your work. So we've been doing auditing cash and cash. We've been going through what is an audit. Tell us more. How do you feel now that you've got all these techniques, all our expertise that have been shared with you? So happy we've got a bunch of very confident of you. Thank you. Some are very confident. Those being not confident, rest assured you've got your recordings. Please go through the recordings. Do email your account manager or ask your supervisor or manager to guide you even more. Use all the materials we've shared with you. I'm sure you're going to move now to the more confident group. All right, thank you everybody for your vote. One last poll, and then we can kickstart the session. Going to launch that one. So the next poll is, how likely are you to apply the audit techniques learned throughout the webinars to your current audit projects? Remember, we've been discussing quite a bit of some subjects so far. Very likely, more than 77%, 80% very likely. I'm so excited for what's next. 30 more seconds. How exciting to see more than 80% of you all are very likely to apply what you're learning. And that's the objective of Caseware Africa, to be a partner to your success and be a partner to your professional development. All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to close the vote now. Thank you all for your participation. Now, let's get into the subject, into what we are going to focus on for today. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time today, our client is called Wrap Up Manufacturing Pty Limited. Its financial year end is 30th of April 2024. We are currently using the IFRS or SFE template for some of us. In my file that I have shared with you is the full IFRS template. The principle for auditing will apply because we're using Audit International template. If you're part of a network, it will be your network template that will apply. The accountant at the client with whom we communicate is called Andy Crack. So let's please open the file together. All the documents that I have shared with you is in a zip folder. Make sure that you first unzip it, you right click, you then uncompress your file before opening it into your Caseware working paper or using Caseware working paper to open it. I'm going to check once more. I'm going to lower all the hands and check once more that you've been able to unzip your Wrap Up Manufacturing that I have shared with you in the chat box, and that you have been able to download it. So you can use the raise hand option just to guide me that we're all aligned, because remember guys, this session is made for you and it is for you. So I'm currently checking in GoTo who has the hands raised, meaning that you've been able to open your Wrap Up Manufacturing Limited. Unzip first, then you go File, Open, Computer, browse to the location where you have saved your file. On my side, it is saved in my Documents folder. It's there, then I can click on Open. But the file must be unzipped first. It's currently 17 minutes to the hour, so I'm going to give you 3 more minutes to ensure that we all have our Caseware working paper file Wrap Up Manufacturing open, downloaded, unzipped, and open. I'm also going to go through quickly through the questions if ever any of you need assistance. I've got a bunch of team members in the session. They will help you, but I will also make sure that we're 100%. Thank you, Boy. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Carla, for raising your hand. Sorry. 2 more minutes, guys, if you're busy downloading. Thank you, Kaleboka. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Rohan. Thank you, Silas. Thank you, Anna. One more minute. I know that internet can be a challenge for some of us due to the issues with the cables. Please rest assured you can still download, follow through the webinar. We're going to have a break every hour, so you're going to have 10 more minutes to catch up. And there is also the recording for you to check. Few more seconds to open your Wrap-Up Manufacturing Limited. All right. So now remember, when you open Wrap-Up Manufacturing or any engagement file on Caseware working paper using your Audit International, you will first jump to the digital dashboard. That's the very nice dashboard that helps you navigate your engagement faster. We are busy with the workflow, so we're busy doing the responding to risks section. So when you jump to the workflow under the risk response, this is where you can access to the different lead sheets, to the different work programs onto your Caseware working paper. Alternatively, if you feel more confident, you can also click on documents, top left of your screen. If you should follow my cursor, there's the documents button. If you click on that, it should open your document manager. And remember, your document manager is made up of folders and subfolders. You can expand the different folders to access your different components in the audit. Now remember, we are auditing the operating expenses section. There are different ways that you can access to your operating expenses section. We could first open our FSA. Remember the FSA back on the digital dashboard, the financial statement area. This is our FSA, the nervous system in Audit International. It will list all your material financial statement areas. And this is also where you can see the line where you can access. So if I scroll down to operating expenses, this is FSA.550, sorry, 750, which is the document number on your caseware. Then you can look at operating expenses, and remember your financial statement balances are going to appear. You can double click and obviously view your financial statement balance. Now, if I go back to my document manager, just want to show you how do you get to your operating expenses folder. So we're going to expand lead sheets and working papers, income statement, the folder 750, aligned with our FSA numbering. Open the folder and you have all the documentation necessary for auditing operating expenses section. Now, before we start, I just want to mention that usually you will need to go through the documentation. So, sorry, just quickly going through here. So let me open, you will usually go through reading the planning minutes or attending a planning meeting, just like we did for cash and cash equivalent, to understand the client. For today, because we're quite short of time, we're not going to go through the planning meeting minutes or the system description. But as I progress, I will then take you through the important items to consider. Let's open our 750, the automatic document in Caseware. So 750, this is your operating expenses. And that is the lead sheet that will separately list for you all the different accounts or line items that you've mapped to the operating expenses. So if you scroll down, you should be able to see all the documents, all the account numbers that have been mapped to operating expenses. We've got a preliminary balance of 19,189,000, a final 1,989, and last year our amount was 17,392,508 with cents 71. Okay. Now, we have received from our client several documents. So if I go to the folder I've shared with you, we have, going to quickly look for the general ledger. We've got the general ledger Wrap-Up Manufacturing Limited. It's giving you a few seconds to locate that Excel which says Wrap-Up Manufacturing GL operating expenses. Giving you just a few seconds to go to that. Okay. Now you can either decide, depending on your firm, you can either decide to go, sorry, apologies about that. You can either decide to go through the Excel spreadsheet to then match back to your lead sheet, to your working paper. Like here, for example, we've got a total operating expenses of 19,189,000. I can use the tools in Excel to get to that amount. This is not an Excel training, but then you can use like locate all your closing balances and add them up. Alternatively, if your firm is a user of Caseware Idea, then you will use Caseware Idea to get to that balance even faster. In this example, if you should look at my screen, I have imported the GL for operating expenses. I've done a control total. So if you should follow my cursor to the right of my screen, I've got a total of 1,989,663. And this is the balance that we have on your working paper. So you can use your Excel. We recommend to use Idea. It's up to you to see which one is better. By looking at we will go through understanding this universe of general ledger in a few moments, but there's one thing that jumps to our attention. If you look either at my screen for Idea, or if you look at your Excel at the top itself, we've got the audit expenses, which the client has incorrectly raised as a monthly provision for the audit fees. And this is the first thing that we see on our Caseware Idea and on the Excel as well. So what we will do in that case, we will process into our journal of overs and unders a journal entry to do the reversal of that. This has already been done with you. So if you go to your Caseware working paper journal entries, remember you can press Ctrl J on your keyboard, or you click on adjusting journal entries. There is a journal entry SP2, which relate to the reversal of this audit fees. So we have raised an unrecorded factual misstatement description. The client incorrectly raised a provision for audit fees, not a valid liability. Apologies for that. And we've debited accrued expenses and credited our audit fees. At the moment, this entry will pull to our journal of overs and unders. So we are going to see that at the end of the session. We've got your document, so I can show you that as well if you're just wondering where to find it. Under your identified misstatements, 335.10 is your unrecorded misstatements. All this is where you're going to see the impact of that journal entry. At the moment, the client, we've not yet discussed with the client. We're just, let me go here. We have just processed this journal entry here. Okay. Now, that has been done for now. Let's assume that our supervisor has gone through our GL. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of perspective what the manager has done, the manager has gone through, I'm going to take the example of Caseware Idea because this is where you can really find value of how to go faster. Alternatively, please use your knowledge of Excel to use Control F to find something, or to use a filtering if you want to filter your Excel. On Caseware Idea, your supervisor will go through the GL by inspecting, for example, the field statistics, just to get a sense of the numerics. So he's happy. We've got 19,189,000 as the total for that GL, which is tallying back to our lead sheet. We have also, the manager or the supervisor will also take note, okay, there's a minimum value of 100,931 if you should follow my cursor. This relates to, quickly looking at it, to a claim, a Vetaphone generated paid out claim, okay? So the manager, the thinking process will be, okay, in that GL ledger, we've got some claims the client is processing, okay? And then he can also further go into the character of the statistics, just to understand further this universe. Going through the account details, the supervisor will just get a sense, okay, these are all the account details. We've seen audit fees earlier. Remember those monthly provisions that we have processed a journal into our other overs and unders. He will go through that. He will then take note that we also have some, how do you call that? The employee costs also included in that general expense, operating expense. We've got also, looking here, some depreciation, which is part of that GL. Now, they can also confirm under the date, is it the proper period that the client has provided us? The client provided us from May 2022 to April 2022. That's the correct financial period. He will also go and understand further this JL universe for wrap up. He will see that most common day, most transactions are processed on a Tuesday, and most of the transactions were processed in May. So again, your manager can then guide you into what are the different periods that maybe you should focus on, or what is his recommendation. Now, as part of your manager's or supervisor's analysis of that GL or inspection of that GL, in that scenario, the manager has also created like a criteria, or like he has filtered the GL to get the claims. So he has used, I'm going to use a formula that we have into Caseware Idea, which is called is in E. So that formula that the supervisor can use will help them find in a particular column a word that he wants to look for. So the word that he wants to look for is claim, and he wants to look for that into the description. And we come up with the claim for fridge, for microwave. So once again, guys, we're just into the universe of your supervisors, what they have done before giving you the full GL or before instructing you to do something. So the manager has come across that claim and has asked the client, okay, Mr. Client, give us more information around that claim for fridge. We have even provided you here with the email for the fridge of microwave. So the manager has asked, okay, good day. We have to the client, Mr. Andy Crack. So the transaction that we refer, so Andy Crack is replying to us, was an insurance claim received for a fridge, microwave, and these were damaged with electrical surge, and the insurance paid out to replace them. They have accounted for output VAT on this already, and it was submitted with that month's return. Andy says that he understands our issue with it being in expenses and confirm that we can pause the journal to move it to an income account. We will pause the journal with any others that needs pausing at the end of the audit. So what do we do with that claim here? And by the way, guys, I just want to remind you, you can also use your Control F function on your Excel to go to that fridge, that claim line. Okay. On your Caseware working paper now, let's process that journal entry. Once again, the insurance claim should have been accounted for under other income. Therefore, I'm going to press on Control J on my keyboard and press on new journal entry. Therefore, this is a classification error for that claim, and we will then need to pause an overs or unders journal. So, first of all, the type of our journal entry is a normal adjusting. The misstatement is going to be factual, because remember, we are selecting normal adjusting because the client agreed. Say, okay, we're going to process it into our books. You can go ahead and do the same for that. But however, it's a misstatement. That's why we are selecting a factual misstatement. Description, we're going to insert insurance claim incorrectly accounted for in the repairs and maintenance. Sorry, I've got a bug around maintenance. Maintenance expense account instead of other income. We have confirmed through correspondence with the client. So the processing will be, we're going to, if you would recall, that's a general, that's your operating expenses GL. We currently have a credit balance under repairs and maintenance. I just want to show you here this account number 4350-001, a negative balance for that claim. We need to reverse that. So we're going to type down the account number, which is 4350-001. And when you press on tab or enter, it will pull up the name repairs and maintenance. and we're going to debit that amount, 31,626. So it's 626.09. Going to add the cents as well. Giving you a few minutes to process that line. The other leg will be we need to credit sundry income. So if you don't know the account number for sundry income, you can still click on the drop down. Sorry, click on the drop down to activate your quick lookup, your quick lookup for account numbers, and we can locate our sundry income. You can also sort by name by clicking on the name here on the top of your screen. And there is an account number there, 290000, which is called Sundry Income Insurance Recoveries. So we're going to double click to select that account number, and this will be our insurance claimed, correctly now reclassified to or classified to other income. Now, what you note when you process a normal adjusting journal entry will be in your operating expenses lead sheet. If I scroll down to repairs and maintenance, you will note the adjusting journal entries that has been processed of 31,626. The impact on the final balance at the end. So remember, it was initially credited, we've now debited expenses. That's why now we've got 166,000. And same, the total now has changed. We started with a balance of 19,189,000, if you recall. We've processed that 31,000 sundry income back to sundry income. We now have a final of 19,221,000. We are going also to note down bottom of the screen all the comments that we've been talking so far. First of all, we're just saying here that operating expenses year on year appears to be reasonable. No unusual accounts noted. How were we able to get to that comment? It's because we went through the Excel. We went through scrolling up and down on the Excel. Better, you're using Caseware Idea that helping you to make your data speak. You go to your field statistics that really helps to get a sense of what's going on with your database. We've seen that the client is raising monthly provision for audit fees, and we have raised the journal. So we're telling our supervisor to refer to journal entry 2. In terms of depreciation, so if you look at your depreciation line in this lead sheet, 2,798,279 since 12 seems in line with prior year. There's no unusual change for that, and this will be tested into PPE. We're telling our manager or supervisor so that he understands in a few moments, we're going to segregate or separate our operating expenses to depreciation and also to employee costs. Same comment for employee costs. There is also no unusual change. and we are noting down some further considerations over there. Now, remember, your lead sheet is really the zoom in of your section from your trial balances. Whatever has been mapped to operating expenses, this is what we will see here in the lead sheet. So hence, why am I telling you that? You might be asking yourself, but she's saying that we will not go through employee cost or depreciation for operating expenses. Why is it here? It is here because we've been mapping these expenses or these line items to operating expenses. Okay. Now, for the rest of these line items, bank charges, cleaning, commission expenses, and everything else, you can tie it back to, so I'm now moving to the second sheet on my Excel, operating expenses GL. Now you can tie back all of these expenses or line item using your Excel back to your lead sheet, or alternatively, just because why would you do that? It's just because to make sure that you are looking at the right data, that you are, you know, that you have the right information before you start doing any work. You're going to agree all the amounts with the detailed GL. I also just want to take you back to that slide that we did since day one. So remember, our final objective is to give an opinion on the financial statements. And where do we get the data that's feeding into the FS is from the trial balance and other. Obviously, there can be other documentation that will feed into our FS. Now, remember that trial balance is being fed by the detailed general ledger. And this is the step we're in. This is going to be the list of all the transactions that will be summarized into the TB. And before we can give any opinion on that trial balance amount, we need to make sure that we're looking at the right information from that detailed GL. So if I go to that detailed GL, just to show you quite rapidly here, what we want to achieve, let's say for your bank charges, you want to do like debit minus credit if you're using your Excel. All right, that's funny. My Excel is not that 100% here. Okay, maybe I've done something. I just want to quickly, okay, it's too much. You see there, I also very love Excel. Please don't interpret me wrong, but it's time consuming. I don't like to scroll up and down. We don't have time for that. Okay, so I'm not sure. Oh, no. Okay, there should have been a 0 over there. I hope this is going to work. Okay, anyway, what you can do, so in that example, there is no credit balance. So let me just take the debit part. So for our bank charge, you have a total sum of 223,039. So if I check it back to my sorry, my lead sheet, that is 100%, 223,039. So I'm tempted to use Caseware Idea because this is really so efficient and effective to quickly check. Here, what I've done, I've simply imported my full GL Then I've performed a summarization because I want to summarize my GL and also want to get the list of, the items, the line items for each account line. And I've also compared to the data that the client has given us, that closing balance. I want to make sure that the client didn't change it just to make it balance, eh? So yeah, that is 100%. We're not confident, there's no difference. I can now tick and bash with my lead sheet that, okay, bank charge, 100% okay, cleaning, that is also fine, computer expenses, we can go on like this and confirm all of that. Now, we're moving, whilst we're doing that, we are moving to, sorry, apologies about that. We're moving to the different procedures that our managers have prepared for us. So if I go back to my Caseware working paper, document manager, you've got your audit procedures, your work program for operating expenses, which need now to start filling up this work program. We can double click to open our work program. Alternatively, on your FSA, if you are on your operating expenses line, you can then click on the working paper, your work program reference, which is the same 750.10, your audit procedures for operating expenses. It is going to open in a few minutes. I just want to highlight there that we have edited the steps to be performed into the work program. So this will also be done by your manager or your supervisor. They can modify the procedure, they can edit the procedures. If ever you're looking at the out-of-the-box audit procedures from Audit International, you will note some difference, and that's 100% normal because I'm the manager in that case. I've done some modifications. So please bear with me just a few moments. This, our work program should open in just a few. Whilst it is opening, I'll just quickly check out if we have any questions or if you have any comments. Sorry. All right, there's no questions, and at least all the questions were answered nicely. I hope, Zuleika, that you've been able to download the material. Tariro, I hope that your colleague or your colleagues have been able to join this session. And I just want to reiterate as well, when you open a document on your Audit International, you will see bottom left of your screen on any case view document, it says executing script. Just give it a few seconds or a few more minutes. It is going to open the document. Do not force shut down. What's happening in the back end is it's applying your risk scoring, your RMM. It is optimizing your procedure to add all the procedures that your manager has selected. If there is any risk that has been raised, this will also going to be inserted on your work program. So there's a lot happening in the back end. So please do allow the executing script fully. As you can see on my screen, it's optimizing. So that's a very important step. Okay, so on my side, the operating expenses audit procedure work program has opened. It's the same drill for all the work program. on Audit International. First of all, you're greeted that your procedures, some procedures have been deleted by the optimizer since the last time this document was open. That is fine, because remember, based on your rescoring on the FSA, your work program will optimize. Remember the risk-based approach, the higher the risk, the more the procedures. So that's why you're getting that bubble text on the top. Then remember, on the top of your work program, you've got your balance matrix, highlighting your current balance, your final, the planning balance, the final balance. You can double click on any amount to open your calculation explorer to view the details of your operating expenses. You also have on the right-hand side of the screen, the materiality matrix, just to ensure that you always get your planning materiality amount visible. On top of your work program, you also have your risk matrix, which is, or your risk report. We've got where we have all the risks raised, what can go wrong, and any RMM scoring. You also have the source or your reference. So now, because this session is made for our trainees, your supervisors might be raising the risks already into your work program, and all you need to do is execute, perform procedures to reduce risk of material misstatement. You can also have reportable items bottom of the screen, where if ever there is any reportable items that you will document when you get to it. Now I'm going to scroll to the substantive procedures basic. That's the first procedure, one of the first procedures that we will go through. And remember, we need to execute the procedures that our supervisors have raised. So the procedure number 2, which is for all procedures that require a selection of items for testing, document how the completeness and accuracy of the population from which this item was selected were verified. Just quickly looking at this. That actually was my next procedure, but that's fine. I'm quickly going to scroll through and look for, there's actually one procedure I'm looking for. All right, that's fine. Actually, what happened here, there's one procedure that has been removed, which should have been there, which was about agreeing the amounts and disclosures presented in the current period for financial statements to the TB and GL and reconcile any differences. That is not currently here, guys, but that's 100%, that's fine. We will be covering employee costs and other sections, you know, in employee costs. I will be covering that one. Let's do that procedure 2 actually, which is for all procedures that require a selection of items for testing, document how the completeness and accuracy of the population from which the items were selected were verified. So here, what we will do is on each working paper where we select a sample, we will then document it here. So what we will do here, we will just going to say we're going to use our working paper and just refer to the working paper, and we're going to reference it. So what we're going to do for that one, just quickly going to our working paper, we're going in a few moments to use the document, the Excel 751, to complete that first procedure. Okay, So we're going to complete that just after the break. I'm just conscious we've got 2 minutes before a short 10 minutes break. So we're coming to that and we're going to say refer to our work program. Just because we're just conscious of time, procedure 3, which is to select material depreciation entries from GL or asset register, determine whether the depreciation entry selected for testing was tested in the sections below. So here we're not going to complete that procedure. This will be tested in section 305. So for this in particular, I'm just going to mention yes. And instead of signing off immediately, I will just deselect my sign off and say depreciation is tested in section 305 and then sign off. Same for procedure for any procedures relating to employee costs. We'll have that same comment that we will complete it in the employee cost section. Okay, just wanted to give you just a hint of the procedures that we are about to complete in the next part of this training. So what I'm going to suggest to you all is that we go for a 10 minutes break from now, 10 minutes sharp. When we're back, we're going to complete the procedure relating to so procedure 6 relating to general ledger, and complete our work program as well so that we can start providing a sign off and a result for each and every procedure that we have on this document. So guys, please enjoy this 10-minute break. See you just now. Welcome back, everybody. It has been a short, but I hope sweet 10 minutes break. You're back on auditing operating expenses with your partner in your professional development, Caseware Africa. I wanted to start off the second part of this session with the where do we get the financial statements? Once again, let's go back to the basics. Remember, our mission is to give our opinion on that financial statements. And since day one of this series, you've understood that the figures that are pooling into your financial statements, they are coming from the trial balance, or in some cases from other documentation. The figures that are pooling onto the trial balance is coming from a detailed general ledger. The TB is just a summary of the general ledger. The general ledger, this is where you're going to find the details of any transaction. It can be a name, it can be an amount, a date. So on a daily basis, your clients will be processing their transactions, and they will pull into that general ledger. And remember, how do you get to that general ledger? I've already said it, I think. It's from that sub-ledger, from that journals that the client is processing on a daily basis. And where do they get that information to process? It's from the source document. This is that supporting documentation that we need as an auditor, as in the profession. We need to follow through that amount which is appearing on the FS or operating expenses. We need to trace it back to that source, that supporting documentation. And in that supporting documentation, you can also get further information around the supplier information, the VAT details, whether the invoice is compliant or not. So there's a lot that you can get from that source. And obviously, before the client gets that actual invoice, there has been an action that happened, that was taken. For example, it was a purchase of a product, and we got to that invoice. That invoice was then processed using a journal or sub-ledger that pulls into the detailed general ledger that's now summarized into the TB and then come back to the FS. Guys, I hope that this is now grounded with everybody, that we know what we're doing, what we're about to do as well, and why do we do it. I was also, by the way, buying some time. If you've got some colleagues out there still drinking coffee, tell them that we are going to now move to the procedures themselves. Okay, so I'm going to escape that slide, and let's go back to our work program, operating expenses. We're going to start signing off and performing the different procedures here. Let's start with that procedure around general ledger. The procedure requires us to review the accounting records for large or unusual transactions. How beautiful is that? Investigate any significant transactions and coordinate with substantive testing below. Coordinate your work with audit procedures performed on journal entries. Test the costings and the calculations in the general ledger accounts. Follow through to supporting documentation. Agree details such as supplier name, date, amounts. Test for mathematical accuracy of the source documents. Ensure that expenses do not include capital items which should have been capitalized. Ensure that expenses related to the conversion of inventories are classified as cost of sales. So, To perform that procedure, we're going to go into, remember, that detailed GL that we need to focus on. And we're going to use, going forward, that general expense. Because remember, as I've mentioned just before the break, we are going to audit depreciation and employee costs in another section. So we have removed in that second tab on your Excel, we have removed the depreciation listing and also the employee cost. So we're going to use that second one as that second sheet instead. On your Caseware idea, if you're using Caseware idea, your manager would have, like here in my example, would have already removed the depreciation and the employee cost from the database that you need to start testing on. Now, let's go back here. On this particular tab, you can also remember our what is our first here, that procedure around costing. Okay, we're going to do that in a few moments. So it's asking us to review the accounting records for large unusual transactions. So on our general expense, either on Excel or idea, Caseware idea, we are going to filter to look for any amount which is over our performance materiality. Just want to remind you that we have set a performance materiality at $1,800,000, and just wanted to remind you as well that we use performance materiality to perform the audit. So go back to what we have initially explained on day one around your different materiality levels. So you can, on your Excel, take a few moments. You could apply a filter, look for any amount above your materiality, above that $800,000, or alternatively, so that's in Excel. I trust that we are all comfortable with Excel. That's 100%. You can do that on your side, but the easiest and the recommended tool that you can use, that you need to use as per Caseware Africa, will be your Caseware idea, where you can easily filter out for any. I'm going to filter out my total greater than $800,000, validate my equation, and what we can see here is that we don't have any material items to test. So what I've done is I've simply, you could use a filter on your side, but what I've done here is the same thing, but much more easily on Caseware idea, where I said, okay, show me any amount above my performance materiality. And you've seen that we don't have an amount which is above that. Okay. Right, let me go back here. Now, apologies for that. For the purpose of this training, we have already selected for you a sample of expenses that we want you to use for this training session. However, I just want to mention here, how do we get to that sample? It all depends to your firm's methodology. So each firm will have its own methodology to select a sample. As part of your professional development and your understanding of your firm's methodology, please reach out to your supervisor, your manager. Ask them, okay, Mr. Manager, what is our methodology towards sampling? How do how do our firm get to our samples? How do we get to that? They can either inform you that they use Caseware Idea, where we've got a sample area. They could give you more information in terms of the sampling that they've done based on materiality, systematic, random. It all depends. Monetary unit, it really all depends. Or alternatively, there are other ways to get to the sample that they will share with you. Okay. Now, that sample that we view, that sample tab, we are going to copy that, all of these, to our working paper in a few moments. And usually what do we do with that sample is we either, the client will get us the supporting documentation. They will show us the supporting documentation for all of these. That's the expectation. I just want to share with you what would you do with that. Or you could also send them all of these information so that they can send to you any supporting documentation. Alternatively, what you might need to do is to get the supporting document yourself. Once again, it depends on your client you're dealing with and also on the way your firm operates. So this is also a question that you need to ask to your manager. Okay, when I get to that sample, do I ask the client to give me the details, or do we go to the client and say, okay, hey, Mr. Client, show me that invoice, or that for that transaction line, show me the supporting the source document. Okay. So we are going to use that sample in a few moments. And if you could please, for me, open your operating expenses working paper. That's the working paper. I did not mention it. I went into auto mode. So I hope that you were able to locate it on your document manager, document 751. That's your operating expenses working paper. Guys, we've seen the working paper last week when we were doing cash and cash equivalent. We've seen that each and every firm might have his own working paper, and usually it is very specific to the firm. It is also very nice to complete all the information in here in a one central location, and then you can go back to your work program on Audit International and say, refer to my working paper. Refer to working paper 751. It's very, would say, more clean to complete here and note down here everything, and then just one line item on your procedure to say, okay, refer back to here. Okay, I'm just giving you 1 minute. If you're busy opening or looking for it, a quick reminder as well to everybody, you can use your Control F function on your document manager. You can locate the document 751 and you can say, okay, I want a document number. I want you to find the document number 751 and then press on next, and you should locate your operating expenses working paper. Sorry. All right, so now on our working paper, the top part of the working paper will be, can be either the logo of your firm or the name of your firm. That's Fletcher Inc. in our example. Name of the company will be the name of our client. We can simply type in the name like Wrap Up Manufacturing Limited. Alternatively, what I really prefer is to make use of Caseware Connector, because remember, you've already typed the name once. We don't want to type again. So you can go to your add-ins on your Caseware, on your Excel, add-ins tab, there is the Caseware linkage for Caseware Connector Group. So you can then click on the Caseware linkage. Then let's go to engagement properties. This is where we can find the operating name of our client. And remember, the recommended best practice is always to place your cursor in the column value. Then you go to the cell that you need. Here, I need the value wrap-up manufacturing and accept. The year end, so I can also find this on my engagement properties, year end 30th of April 2024, accept. This is the schedule of. So this will be the schedule of our operating expenses testing. So I can, now I'm going to close that connector window. I'm going to call that operating expenses testing. And this year end here, it's currently appearing in numeric on Excel. That's 100%. Just right click, go to properties or format cells, and then select custom and choose as usual, right, guys? This is not an Excel training. You can then modify to show your year end properly. And always remember to have a nice formatting so that when your manager opens the file or your supervisor, it's very nice to go in and understand what's going on. Quickly filling in all of these information, your overall materiality. So remember, where do you get your overall, all these information? You can either use connector to link all your materiality information. Alternatively, if we go to, let's say, the FSA, or I could have used operating expenses here itself. On the FSA, if you double click over your materiality matrix on the top of your screen, it should open the document 420 dots, which is the materiality document, and you can get all the information. So here I've got my overall, my performance. I can start typing in 1,800,000. Where do you get your trivial amounts? There are different ways to get to your trivial amounts. Either on your materiality document, if you scroll through, you will get to your trivial misstatement, trivial amount, or remember, on your lead sheet, on the top of your lead sheet, you've got your trivial materiality amount, which is in this case $30,000. Please take a few seconds as I'm also typing to also type these little information. Okay, the source, we are going to, what is the source? How are we going to fill up this particular working paper? We're going to use as the source our general expense, our general ledger. So I'm going to type here general ledger. Now, as part of this working paper, we're requested to document how the completeness and accuracy of the population from which the items were selected were verified by ISA 500.9. So we have noted here, because I was just conscious of time, I thought that it's better for me to insert it for you. So here we're saying that the completeness and accuracy of the source of the general ledger is tested in other areas of the audit, in trade and other payables. The completeness of expenses has been tested through unrecorded liabilities testing. The general ledger has been reconciled to the lead sheet. Do you agree with me? We've done that this morning. Further accuracy testing is performed in the testing to be performed. So we're going to perform that just now. Okay. You can also add to your audit work program or to your lead sheet these different comments as well. Now, if we scroll down further, we've got here our objective and risk of material misstatement. What we need to do what we need to insert here is to look at your work program, at your audit procedures. And there is in your Audit International template, the assess risk at FS level. There's a table on the top that indicates to you the assess risks at the assertion level. This is that little table that I'm going to populate back onto my working paper. So I'm going to insert completeness is insignificant here. I'm going to insert existence, accuracy value. Apologies, guys. I've seen that my connection was interrupted. I hope that now it has been restored, that you can see me, not that me, but see my screen. I haven't gone far, but yeah. Guys, can you confirm that you can hear me? Maybe the Caseware Africa team? Okay, Caseware Africa team, can you confirm that you can hear me? Or maybe, guys, if you can raise your hand and let me know that you can hear me, that'd be really helpful. Oh, thank you, guys. If you can see some hands raised, so 100% you can hear me. Thank you for that. So Yes, you can hear. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Shelter. Okay, thank you, Renee. All right, so just before, let me go back just a little bit where I got disconnected. So we were busy completing our operating expenses working paper. What I've done is inserted as my firm policy, we need to insert the objectives. What are all the assertions that we're testing for that FSA, and the risk of material misstatement. Where did I get to those values and those objectives? These were from your assess risk at financial statement level on your work program on the document 75010, where we've got the assess risks at the assertion level: existent medium risk, accuracy evaluation medium, presentation medium. A polite reminder to everybody, you have to interpret those summarized assertion as your complete list of assertions. So I'm going to simply replicate all of that back onto my working paper. Remember always to guide your supervisor. Where did you get to those values? I got that. I'm going to use my Caseware linkage now. I got that from my document 75010, which is my work program. So I can select either my lead sheet, or I could use, okay, let me see. Let's use the lead sheet, or maybe, okay, 750. So that's the lead sheet. Okay, we could use the 751, not 751, but 750, or let me quickly look for, okay, I can use that one, or we can simply type it in 750.10. 750.10, that's the document number of my lead sheet, of my work program. Sorry about that, of my work program. Let's also complete the top part here, population. It says lead sheet total. What is the total on your lead sheet? So going back to my lead sheet on Caseware working paper, the total on my lead sheet is 19. I'm going to take that one, 1989,663. 19. I have to go back. Apologies for that. 189,663.27. Less employee costs. Less employee costs. So if you would remember, your employee cost is a total. Just making sure that's the correct amount I'm looking for. My employee cost is 6,060,386. So I'm going to remove that. And depreciation line will be 2,798,279. Negative less 2,798,279.12. That's the total population to be tested. And remember, we are going to tell our manager, where did we get to that lead sheet total? That was the document number. Can also use, actually, I was looking for it into the wrong area. I can use the tool like reference to a document on my add-in. Remember, this is Caseware Connector. Reference to my document. I want to reference it to 750. My operating expenses. Use the font settings. Include the name as well. Press on OK. And what's nice with that option, when your manager is going to click on it, they will then jump to the lead sheet itself, the operating expenses lead sheet. The employee cost, we're going to say this is tested separately, so we add it. Don't leave anything, you know, to the your manager will know that it is tested separately. Write it down. For depreciation, this is tested in PPE. Refer to section where, what section should we refer to? To section 305, which is our property, plant and equipment section. So if you don't know, you can also go back to your document manager, Control F, look for PPE, and you can then type section 305. Our sample size, we've got 6 as our sample size. This has been given to us by our manager. So do we have 6 here? Whoops. We do. There are six lines. So that's my 6 sample size. The sample method. So we have used either a random number generator, or our manager has used Caseware Idea random sample selector. So you need to ask to your manager, ask to your supervisor, what is your sampling method? So what is the work program that you're going to use for this? We can also use, you can test it on your site. Please feel free to test it as well. Add-ins on your Excel ribbon on the top of your screen. Tools, reference, document. Select your document 75010, which is our audit procedures for operating expenses. Audit work performed. So we are going to perform in a few moments the procedure 6 for general expenses. We're also going to go for procedure 7 for material operating expenses. Just to guide you quickly, we're going to also complete our accounting policies, procedure 12, our P&D procedure 13. So you can also type in as you start to complete your procedure. Please you remember to come back and edit that we're going to complete procedure 6. Then as you progress, you're going to come and edit it and say, okay, 7 and so on. So as we complete, as we start completing, we are going to select here, insert here the procedures that we complete. Then the most interesting part of that working paper will be really the results area. This is where you need to provide the general ledger information from the sample that you have been provided with. So we're going to insert all the details pulling from our sample sheet. We have added a little comment on the top here that no material items noted in the general ledger. We've done these procedures part of, I think it was procedure, at the start of that procedure number 6. I think that's the first item. It's asking us to review the accounting records for any large unusual transactions, and we've done a filtering by more than $800,000, and we've seen that there is no material item noted into the general ledger. Okay, let's start now by feeding our sample information into the relevant columns here to ensure that our manager will get all the information correctly and nicely. And please, just one thing to bear in mind, make sure that you format it nicely so that it fits in the document nicely. Okay, let's start with the first item that we want to feed in. So let's look our sample. Going to move in and out of the sample. The first line relates to consulting fees. And we've got an account number here. The name is consulting fees. The date is 31st of March. It's a purchase reference. It's a Z contract. We're going to see why in a few moments. The contract account here, the description is supplier invoice. We've got the invoice number and the amount. Let's first copy all of the sample information into our relevant columns. And then we are going to start exploring deeper in all the different transactions. So the first one we need to feed is the first column B, is the account number. So I'm also just going to feed up here, field series. You can add 1 to 6. We need the account number, so I'm going to copy the account numbers here. We also need the account name. Guys, I'm not just copying everything one go. I'm just not highlighting everything and pasting it over there, because in several cases, you'll see your working paper might be different from the GL from the client, right? So that's the account name. We've got the date. Let's copy the date. Let's also copy the description. We don't have entry type here. We're jumping directly to description. So I'm going to select the full description and also increase a little bit the column. Then let's also copy the amount. So what we've done so far, we've just identified all the required headers on our working paper. We've identified them on the sample that has been provided to us by our manager. Now, we've also fed in the total amount from here. Now, the type of supporting document that we have, all of that. So let's start with that first, or the 6 of it. Consulting fees, insurance, and everything. Because I'm just conscious of time, I'm going to guide you. I've provided you with the invoices for all the 6 transactions. The consulting fee, the insurance from Netstar, the petrol invoice, the stationery invoice, the consumables, the security invoice. Usually you'll go line by line and identify those. It's just because, once again, we're short of time. So I'm just going to help you here. I'm going to say this is the type of supporting documentation is the supplier invoice. I'm just going to feed everything one go here. Now, unfortunately, for the rest, we have to go granular. We're going to go and insert all the information. So let's start with transaction number 1, which is that consultancy fee. If you open your PDF document, which is an invoice, a tax invoice, the date on the invoice is currently 31st of March 2003. The supplier is called Poveri and Associates Consulting. So on your working paper, the date, remember, is 31st of March 2023, and the name of our supplier is Poveri Associates Consulting. The document number will be the invoice number. Sorry, the invoice number on your document, on your actual invoice, which is, if you look at your different invoice, it depends. Sometimes the invoice number can be top left, top right, bottom, middle. Here in that case, it's in a, how to say that, vertical area on the left of your screen. It's 17026. So that's my document number. It's asking me what is the I'm also going to just add it as a character. Amount excluding VAT. So what is the amount excluding VAT here? If you scroll bottom of your screen, you should see the subtotal 22,310. 22,310. That's the total amount excluding VAT. What is the VAT on the invoice? I'm not going to calculate the VAT for the client. I'm just gonna take it as is here, 3346.50, and the amount including the VAT will be 25,656.50. The difference has been calculated by taking your amount that the client has processed in the expense line item minus the amount excluding VAT, because obviously your VAT is going to go to your VAT account. And at the moment, there is no difference here. Now, I'm going to, because I'm just conscious of time, we're going to feed the first line completely. Then I'm going to go a little bit faster with the rest and give you time as well if you want to try on your side. The next column requests us to cost and calculations of GL accounts. Then we've got here the detail per supporting agreed, per supporting documentation agreed. So what we're going to do is not sign off, but add our different tick marks. The legend of our tick mark is bottom of the screen. It says no exceptions noted, will be that little green tick, and A will be procedure not applicable to the transaction, and this is your cost tick mark. So we've done the cost and calculation of the GL account, and we are happy. So we're going to not sign off, but add the legend here. Details of per supporting documentation agreed. So yes, we are 100%. We've agreed the description, consultation on HR policies and procedures. This is the total amount that we've seen. This is also addressed to wrap up manufacturing. We're going to do that in a few moments. I'm just going to sign off here. Mathematical accuracy of the source document. So for the mathematical accuracy of the source document, we can use your Excel as well to perform that. So the VAT should be 15%. So I'm going to take 22,310 multiplied by 15%. That's the VAT amount, 3,346.50. We add it back to the amount excluding VAT. We've got 25,656. So we are going to then give our tick mark, agree to the source document. Expenses should have been capitalized. Should have that been capitalized? That's a supplier invoice for consulting fee, HR consultancy fee. I think this is not applicable. That procedure is not applicable to that transaction. So I'm going to use that NA tick mark. It's not applicable. Is the classification correct? Should it have, based on what you've read on that invoice, should it have gone to your expense line item, should it be on that GL line item? That's 100% yes. VAT is correctly calculated. We've just done that. VAT is correctly accounted for in the accounting records. So I'm going to assume that we went through the accounting records and we've seen that. One thing I haven't mentioned here, I've just highlighted here, this invoice is addressed to Wrap-Up Manufacturing Company Limited. This is the company that we are currently auditing. Now let's move to the next transaction line, which is transaction 2 around insurance from Netstar. So let's look at Netstar. Okay, guys, I hope that now you're more comfortable with looking at a supporting documentation. First of all, that's the name of the supplier. That's the invoice date, the VAT number. It's a tax invoice. The tax amount, the invoice number, to whom it has been billed to. It has been billed to Wrap-Up Manufacturing Limited. Your customer, your different addresses here that tally with the address of Wrap-Up. The detail of the transaction, we don't really understand that transaction. It's an insurance. We don't really understand the description, but what we definitely understand is that it is addressed to Wrap-Up Manufacturing. We've got the unit price, the VAT that you can also check, and the total line, and can also have the address of your supplier. But you have to bear in mind when you look at your invoices, depending on your jurisdiction, like here in Mauritius, the Mauritius Revenue Authority require a tax invoice to be, compliant, or to be able to claim your input VAT. You have to have a compliant tax invoice. That is, it must be mentioned tax invoice, the address and the name of the supplier should be visible. The tax account number or the VAT number should be available as well. Same for the client name should be visible with the address, with the phone and the VAT number. So you might also need to consider the compliance of your tax invoice. So I'm now going to go a little bit faster to fill that in. So please, you can also feed in as you can refer to your document as I feed it in. Okay, so I'm going to start. The date of my invoice is 1st of January 2022. The name of the supplier, 2022. The name of the supplier is Netstar. The invoice number is 1863, if you would recall. The amount excluding VAT is 648, and the VAT is 97, and the amount including the VAT is 745. And the difference here is automated. You understood the formula. It is the amount that has been booked in our GL compared to the amount excluding VAT, and there is no difference. So we are happy with the amounts on the GL. The details for the supporting document does agree. Looking at your VAT computation, the VAT calculation, 648 times 15%, 97.20, plus again, 648, 745.20 cents. The mathematical accuracy of the source stock is fine. They should not have been capitalized. The classification is correct, should appear in our expense GL. One last before I give you a small break of 10 minutes. Guys, just bear with me because we've lost a few minutes due to my internet connectivity. Let's move to petrol oil. So that will be the third invoice, Good Morning Oil. Here, transaction 3. Quickly opening it. Try to identify here the date, the name of the supplier, the invoice number, whether it has been correctly invoiced to wrap up, the detail, the amount excluding VAT, the VAT, the total. Quickly also assess the VAT, and just giving you time to process all of these and try to fit it in your Excel spreadsheet. Just a few seconds. Take that habit of spotting the different elements on your invoice. Okay, now I'm going to help you out. So for that third invoice, the invoice date, okay, we need to make it very nice here. It's not really that 100% nice. I'm just gonna put it here. So the invoice date is 28th of April 2023. This is good morning, supplier. Good morning, oil. PDY Limited. Invoice number, I hope that you've been able to locate it. It's G2187, and the amount excluding VAT is 61,575 cents 48. This is our VAT amount, the amount including the VAT per the invoice, and we've got it correct. There's no difference, and I've been able to check out all of these items. I'm also going to ask you before we go to the break to complete the invoice number 5. Then I'll come to invoice 4 and 6 after we come from the break. So invoice 5, Multi-Waster Florida. We're opening that invoice. Remember the habit of taking and looking at the invoice of the client. If they are claiming their VAT, make sure that the invoice is compliant. Tax invoice, VAT number, name of supplier, name of customer, which is our client, wrap up manufacturing, invoice number, invoice date, the different details. So I'm going to help you feed that in the Excel. The date of this document, of this invoice, is 30th of November 2022. The name of our supplier is called Multi-Waster Florida Pty Limited. Invoice number INA 3880,870. Our amount 15,346.28. Tax, or not VAT, 2,301.94. 17,648.22. Once again, no difference here. We're going to say we've gone through the costing, that is correct. The costing is done. The details per supporting documentation does agree. The mathematical accuracy has been checked. Remember, you can check your computation using your actual rate of tax for your jurisdiction. The expense should not have been capitalized. The classification is correct. So remember, this is waste removal service. It is an expense. It should go to your expense line item. That's 100%. The VAT is calculated correctly. I've checked that out. And also, it is correct into our accounting records. It's 5 minutes past the hour on my side. Let's take 10 minutes break from now, and let's be back to complete our operating expenses audit procedures. See you just now. Welcome back, everybody. Once again, a very short but nice 10 minutes break. So you're back online with us with auditing operating expenses using Audit International. We were busy completing our working paper where we are inserting our sample information, and then for our different, so going back to what we're doing, if you look at your audit work program, we're following through the costings, we're doing the follow through the supporting documentation, we're doing all these different audit procedures back onto our working paper, on that Excel working paper that we have. So let's continue with that invoice number 4, which is our printing and stationery invoice. So let's locate that invoice, which is in your folder, which is invoice number 4 from Open Doors Stationery Limited. All right. So here, first of all, let's have a look at the invoice and understand what is the invoice. We can see here that the supplier is called Open Doors Stationery. It's an invoice. There's the invoice number C584. We've got the date of the invoice. Remember, when you look at the date of the invoice, we're also having in mind your financial period that you're auditing, right? It is billed to us, or not to us, to our client, wrap up. It is black toner cartridge. So in the back of your mind, is it expense? Is it correctly accounted in your expense line? Your total, subtotal here, your VAT amount, and the total amount including your VAT. Okay, let's feed in the information and let's talk to Tick and Bash. So the date of the invoice, if you should recall, if you go back and look at your invoice, I'm not going to look at it again with you. It's the 24th of August 2022. The name of our supplier is Open Doors Stationery Pty Limited. Our invoice number C584. The amount excluding VAT is 1,148. The amount of VAT is 172,020 cents. And the amount including VAT is 1,320.20. No difference noted down here. So we have done the costing calculation. I've shown you before for the other examples how you do that. We have also compiled and agreed with the details for the supporting documentation. We've done the mathematical accuracy or calculation of the source document. Let's look at the classification is correct. Is the VAT calculated correctly? Is it inserted correctly? So there are some points if you look at the invoice and if you compare it with the other invoices that we've seen so far, and depending on your jurisdiction, you must have, I'm sure, guidelines on your tax authority website or any documentation that they have submitted to the public on the guidelines of what is a correct tax invoice or correct VAT invoice. What we see here, even though if I compute this VAT amount of 172,020, which is correct, everything seemed correct. The only thing that doesn't look correct here is that the invoice doesn't seem to comply with a valid tax invoice. In most of jurisdiction, and just by the way, I've worked with different jurisdictions across Africa, and one thing in common is you must have on anywhere on your invoice the name tax invoice or VAT invoice somewhere. It has to be visible on the invoice. If it is not visible, if it says pro forma or invoice or any other, it is not valid to claim for input VAT. If your that invoice is not valid, then what it means, and this is the case here, it's not, doesn't mention tax invoice here, a valid tax invoice name as required by the tax authority, then wrap-up manufacturing cannot claim back the VAT invoice, the VAT, the input VAT. Because if the tax authority comes for an audit, or if there is, any query of their accounts, and they come across that invoice, they are then liable for penalties for claiming for that. So, on what we need to do here is, if we go on our GL, let's go back on the GL and see if we can locate that invoice. So this is called Open Doors. And I find Open Doors from here. Open Doors. So I have to find the Open Doors stationery. So let me instead look for 1148. Okay, here we go. That's the black toner cartridge. So what happened here is the client has only claimed back has claimed back the input VAT, and that is actually not correct. So what we're going to do for that invoice, we're going to need to provide with how do you call that? Provide with a journal entry to their management of wrap-up manufacturing for this particular transaction. Okay, so what we can do, as I was looking for Open Doors, I don't know if you've seen, the first time that I've opened that general ledger, I do a Control F. I came across several Open Doors invoice, right? So there is these invoices. Ink cartridge, Kyocera ink cartridge, and some other cartridges here. So what we need to do, what we need to think is, if all the invoices, I'm pretty sure that all the invoices from Open Doors do not comply with a criteria of a valid tax invoice. So meaning that all those input VATs that the company wrap-up is claiming is not correct. So what we need to do, let's quickly identify all invoices from Open Doors. I'm going to use my Caseware idea because this is very much easier, but you can also use your knowledge of how to filter on your Excel to perform that. So I need to find all those how do you call that? It's not the account description. Okay, yeah, it's the account, under all the account description. I need to find all the Open Doors transactions, all the suppliers called Open Doors. So I'm going to use the criteria that you've been introduced this morning. I'm going to use the is in E criteria. It's the name open doors that I'm looking for. I wanted to find any open doors invoice into the description column. Okay, we've got 3 transactions here. Let's make sure that it's open doors, or we can say open door, just to make sure that we're looking at the correct total invoices. Seems that it is correct. We've got a total amount of invoices identified for open doors, a total of 6,872. Here, a total amount. So that's the total amount. If you should look at the right of my screen, that's the total amount that we have. So if you look at also at your open doors here, actually, it's actually a little bit more. Not too sure on Caseware idea. Oh, it's open doors. There's open doors with a space and one with no space. So let's change that. I'm just going to call it open. And that's the reality of your work, guys. So sometimes you have to refer back and just make sure that you're really considering everything. So now what I've considered here, I told myself, okay, there's 3 invoices. Let's make sure, let's take only the open description to make sure that we get to the total list of invoices. Yes, that's correct, Shelter. Thank you for your comment. There are 5 and not 3. That is 100%. I love your comments, and I really want to thank you for participating. And yeah, there's surprises for those of you participating and you know, challenging and giving comments. All right, so Shelter, the total amount of invoice then that you have for open doors will be 11,450. So potentially there is an amount of VAT of 15% of 11,450. So if I go here, I do 50% of 11,450, I get to a total of 1,717, which is an amount of VAT that may not be claimed, that should not be claimed back by wrapper. So let's add a comment. Let's propose a note to be added on our working paper. So first of all, let's complete all of that. We've done the VAT calculated correctly. However, accounted in the accounting records properly. Let's add a note. Let's call it N1. Okay, so let's call the notes here at the bottom of your working paper. You've got an area to add your notes. I'm going to say N1 for my comment. So I'm going to say here the invoice from open doors does not, or the invoices does not comply with the criteria for a valid tax invoice. Therefore, input that may not be claimed. I've even already added the values here for you, but that's fine. So that's the total invoices which can be identified from this supplier in the GL account is, we've seen 11,450, as nicely mentioned by Shelter. Thank you for that. Then input VAT claimed on this amount would be 15% of these. This is considered as trivial. Remember, our trivial amount is $30,000. This is below trivial materiality. So in here, a report to management item will be raised. So what we do with that, as soon as we get to that comment, we need to go back to our work program, our audit procedures work program. There's the green button. Remember our management, our reportable items card. You're going to click on that green button to open your reportable items card. And then document that reportable item. Document the name, what is your reportable item here. In our case, I already did it for you, so you can locate it by clicking on the doormat, top left of the screen on the green bar. Then go to the right under reportable items. There is the VAT claim on invalid invoice. The name of our reportable item is called VAT claim on invalid invoice. What is our observation? We've seen that the VAT invoices from open doors are not the VAT that has been claimed on invoices from open doors stationery are not correct. The invoices do not comply with the criteria for a valid tax invoice issued by the tax authorities. The implication is input VAT is misstated on VAT return submissions. What is the source? We were busy performing our operating expenses procedures where it has been addressed. That's the working paper 751, our Excel. This is where we've addressed it. What is our recommendation? Our recommendation is a request should be made to Open Doors Stationery to update the format of the invoice and provide the updated invoice to wrap up to make sure that they can claim it. We're going to include that recommendation if you're using Caseware working paper or Audit International management letter report. We're going to include it in the management report and report for those charged with governance. This is going to roll forward, so we're going to have that reportable item in our next year file, and we can then check it back whether this has changed. The group letter structure, we are going to pull, if you're using Audit International Management Letter, this is going to pull under operating expenses. And that's how you can also raise your reportable items. Okay, I'm now going back onto my working paper. Let's complete the last one, the last transaction, which is security. So let's open our security services. Double click to open that invoice. Taking a bit of time. That one is a very nice, that tax invoice is very big here, 100%. It is addressed to our client, Wrap Up Manufacturing. That's the date of the invoice, the date 1st of August, the invoice number, 100%. This is monthly security charge for August. There is an admin fee. Payment term is advance here. We've got a subtotal. You can check the sales tax here and the total. That's the supplier details with all the details and the VAT number from the supplier. So let's see, let's have a look at, let's insert all of these information onto our working paper. So first of all, the date, the 1st of October 2022. The name of our supplier, just mention it to you, it's 24/7 Security Services Pty Limited. The invoice number is IR 913. If you recall, I've highlighted it for you. The amount excluding VAT, what is it? Let's have a look at that together. 31,874, 31,874.78. The VAT amount is 4,781.22, and that is the amount including the VAT from the invoice itself. We can clearly see that there is a difference that appears. There's a discrepancy from what has been recorded on our GL or recorded in our journal entries and the invoice. So, have we done the cost and calculation of the GL amounts? Yes. Have we gone through the details for the supporting documentation? Let's add a comment for that to say that the details that we've agreed the details from the supporting documentation to the GL, but we've noted that there is an amount that does not agree. The amount excluding that does not agree. So we're going to add a note on that at the bottom of your screen. You can scroll to the left and let's add the N2. I have already inserted some of the comments for you. So I'm going to add N2 here and say the amount per the accounting record and the amount per the supplier invoice do not agree. Projected error. That's the misstatement. That's the 152.17. That's the total sample tested. That's the total of our invoices, and we've done the costing of all these invoices. So I'm going to put my tick mark here. That's done for the costing here. The error rate, again, the error rate, you have to inquire with your firm how they calculate it here. We've said misstatement divided by the total sample tested. That's our error rate. The total population, this is pulling from the total population that we're currently testing. And our projected error is 11,815. And this is trivial, again, based on what we've seen on the top. So not what we've seen, but based on your trivial mistake, trivial materiality amount. So let's continue to fill our documentation here. Mathematical accuracy of the source. So we've done that. You can also do that, use your calculator to perform that. Classification is correct. It is monthly security charge admin fees. The classification is correct in operating expenses. The VAT has been calculated correctly. However, whether the VAT is accounted for correctly in the accounting records, we've got a note here. We're saying that the projected misstatement around computation, that's the projected error. So let's conclude. Let's conclude at a conclusion and explain what we're going to do with this misstatements that we've came across. We came across the input VAT claim error. We came across the amount that was processed or accounted for in our expenses is not correct. Let's add a comment. We're going to say based on the testing performed above, the objective has been met. Now, we have found that all the misstatements that we came across have been appropriately dealt with. So we're quite satisfied, we're still satisfied that we have appropriate evidence to reduce risk of material misstatement. So nothing was material. So that's the reason for our sign off. Now that we've done all of that here, let's compile and sign off our procedures on our work program back on 750.10. For procedure 6, I'm going to sign off as completed, no exceptions. You can use the flash fill, the technology in Audit International to flash fill complete, no exception. You can also, we highly advise you to click on the reference, sorry, the plus button for the reference. You're going to then reference to your working paper. So my working paper is 751, so that my manager can click on that operating expenses where I've done all the steps. I can also now complete this procedure number 2, where I say completed, no exception. I can even write down, I can deselect my sign off and say refer to the operating expenses working paper. Was it 751? Sign off, insert your referencing, double click to insert your referencing, and go to operating expenses 751. That is correct. Analytical procedures. This is also what we've been doing. Agree amount disclosure for the current period. Now, because we also have employee cost in that procedure, I will not sign off right now for this procedure. However, I'm still going to insert my 751 operating expenses, which I've been doing some analytical procedures in there. Procedure number 5, I will not be completing that. We're going to have a session in the weeks to come around employee costs. Procedure 7, select material operating expenses from the GL or use sample of material operating expenses, ensure that VAT is calculated correctly and everything. So we're going to sign off completed here, no exception. You can also add your reference to your work program. So it is operating expenses. So a quick, I just want to pause a little bit, just a few seconds, because I think it is quite important. There's a very nice question from Ayanwala. What does it mean, your E, your A, your V? So Ayola, this is your assertions. Remember, the assertions will be the objectives for your financial statement area. Your C will be your completeness, your E will be your existence, your AV, your accuracy valuation, your PD, your presentation and disclosure. So you have to interpret it as your full list of assertions. You can also connect with your supervisors to ask about the complete list of assertions. But what we're doing, what we've been doing since day one, we are having our assertions as the objective, and any risks that have been raised and linked to the assertion, we've been doing tests to reduce risks, these risks of material misstatement for these assertions. So when you're performing, if I go to your work program, when you're performing, let's say, procedure 8, okay, that's not a good example. Let's go to, okay, let's go to here, accounting policies, procedure 12. It says, ensure the accounting policies are appropriate and consistently applied. The assertion that you are, or the objective that you're testing here is accuracy and valuation. You're going to say, okay, accuracy valuation has been, the assertion has been met, the objective has been met, so I can then complete as a result, whether you're satisfied, completed, no exception, or if you're not, there are exceptions, you can note it down like this. Yeah, I hope that's fine with you, voila. All right, so for the other procedures here, sorry, For the other procedure, I'm going to sign up here accounting policies for accuracy and valuation. And remember, this is also here with on your working paper. We've been doing the test here by selecting as well all the different steps here around your accuracy and valuation, right? Okay. So I'm going to sign off. Guys, I just want to remind you as well, I've not completed all the procedures relating to employee costs or cutoff, because we are going to complete that in other in other sections of these webinars. Your presentation and disclosure. So the first one is classification. Ensure the classes of transactions have been appropriately classified, aggregated, disaggregated, and characterized in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Disclosure. The notes of the financial statement include disclosure required, appropriate financial reporting disclosure framework, relevant information. The overall presentation of the financial statements have not been undermined by including information that is not relevant or that obscures proper understanding of the matters. So what you're going to do here is go through the list, not the list, but the client's financial statement where they have the disclosure for. Going to look, I'm not sure if I've sent it to you. Oh yeah, we do have it. That's 100%. The statement of comprehensive income, making sure that based on all these, I'm sorry, procedures that you have for your presentation and disclosure have been met by looking at your statement of comprehensive income. There's any other note relevant that has been added, like here note 15, you can go to the note 15 and complete that particular section. It's the same principle. We went into the detail of that note with your cash and cash equivalent. So I'm going to here sign off as completed, no exception. In respect of the rest of this particular work program, they relate to your employee costs, everything else related to the employee costs. So we are going to feed that in next time we meet. We're going to complete this work program. We're not going to sign off completed by as yet, because once again, we're yet to complete the work program. Okay, now I'm going to go through the list of questions, and as we go through the list of questions, I'm going to ask you to feed in our webinar survey. That's extremely important for us to control the quality of the survey. We want to hear your voice. I'm going to share in a few moments the link to the survey. So please do fill in. Oops, I'm just quickly clicking on the link that was shared with you, just confirming, okay, yeah, that's 100%. Thank you so much, Renee. Has shared with you the survey. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey. And whilst you're completing the survey, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box to ask us any of your questions. We do read every single answer to the survey. So yeah, we're looking forward to reading your feedback for this webinar. Now, just a quick mention for the recordings. We have sent to you a link to the Success Community where you can download where you can access your previous recordings. We also have on our YouTube page all the different recordings. Concerning the session 3 around cash and cash equivalent, I'm going to share the feedback whether it has been shared with you already. But please do rest assured we're making sure that, you know, within the week, the next week, we can provide it to you. If you still can't find your recording, please rest assured we'll make sure in a follow-up session internally that we do provide you with the recordings and that we also insert it on community. Remember that link that has been shared with you with all the different recordings. I think Renee has also shared with you the link to the different recordings. There is a question from Trueblood. Hello, Trueblood. Thank you for your question. The question was, what I missed was the export of the Excel working paper that you were working on. If you can kindly just direct me how to go to that Excel working paper. Yes, sure, Trueblood. So the Excel working paper that we've been working on the whole day is found on your document manager. So if you have your document manager on your screen, locate the lead sheet and working papers folder, expand the folder, go to income statement folder 700, 750 for your operating expenses, 751, that's the working paper we've been working on. You can also use Control F on your keyboard and then find the document number 751. You should get to that Excel. A question from Harsh. Okay, you have not yet received any email regarding the link of previous lectures. Okay, Harsh. I'm going to ask Rana if you can insert also the link to the community on the chat box. It's just that I don't have access to my Teams right now to copy and paste it. If you can kindly insert that for everybody. Thank you. Very nice question from Betsalot. Thank you for your question. Where can you get to Caseware Idea? So, Betsalot, I'm going to ask you to connect with your account manager and ask for your account manager about Caseware Idea. We can even guide you on how you can make use of Caseware Idea, make your team more efficient with it. If you are the manager in your firm, you can connect with us. If you are a junior, you can ask your manager about Caseware Idea. If they don't have it, you can then share your experience of what you've seen into that webinar. They can connect with us. We can do a demo and then guide you how to get to it. Hello. So we've got another comment from Tishaona. I hope that I'm pronouncing correctly your beautiful name. So you have not yet received the attendance certificates for the first week of training. Please do send an email to marketing team. That email that you've received your certificate, just let them know that you've not yet received it. insert also the date. That will really help us. Thank you. All right, guys, whilst you're feeding in the survey, we really look forward for all of your responses to the survey. I'm currently going through the questions correctly. So if you have any other question, please do ask any of your questions. A quick reminder, we are going to meet again on the 4th of April for financial statements. We're going to go through balancing a note, balancing the related party notes, balancing your cash flow as well. I know many of you are looking forward for that session, so we count on your presence. On the 5th of April, we're going to do the auditing of employee costs. Extremely interesting. We've got so many exciting stuff to share with you. So looking forward to be with you on the 5th of April. Then on the 15th of April, we've got the auditing of journal entries, related party and other income. For the sessions in May, we're yet to provide you with the different contents and the topics. So we'll do that in due course. Please do connect with all of us. This is the LinkedIn for Caseware Africa. You can connect with us. Make sure that you are on the Get Ahead Audit Intake 2024. For those of you who wants to be eligible to gifts, make sure that you're connected. I've spotted somebody today. It's Shelter Muzimbawaka Baweke. Well done. So Shelter, I hope that you are on our Get Ahead Audit Intake 2024 LinkedIn page. Please make sure you're here to see what are the gifts that you've received for today's session. I have to say your question was, your comment was on point and I really loved it. So, and yeah, everybody, please make sure that you connect to that LinkedIn page. This is the condition to be eligible to all our gifts. We are also on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So feel free to connect with us. Our YouTube video, you can subscribe. We've got very nice video. And if you did not receive the recording, it is on YouTube. Make sure that you go and watch our YouTube channel. Guys, that's it for me today. It was a real pleasure to be with all of you. I think each and every one of you who've been participating either silently or using the chat box. I also thank all the team at Caseware Africa for their support. Looking forward for the next session. Thank you and have a productive day ahead and bon weekend.